Hello, my name is Arturo Ortiz, and I will be presenting the Firebird Database Management System for Dr. Sharma's ISM 6217 evening class. Now, the table of contents shows what the summary of my presentation will be based on the topics. So it's just an overview of this presentation. So I will be talking about the date of launch, the background and company history, market share and industry targets, types of databases, double type of database Firebird is, database model, accessibility, pricing, data storage and capacity, data access, usability, data visualization and reporting features, advantages and features, and drawbacks. Now, Firebird was launched on the 25th of July of 2000, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. Now, based on the source code, that source code was made by Imprise Corp, now known as Borland Software Corp, but that was done in the 80s. And the software was actually patched together back again for the creation of Firebird in the July 2000, but the code has been largely rewritten as of today for Firebird 4.0. Now, the Firebird project itself is a commercially independent project of C and C++ programmers, technical advisors, and supporters run by the Firebird Foundation, which is an amalgamation of individuals, companies that work together as a part of a non-profit organization that ensures the continued development of the open source software database known as Firebird. And it's one of the main draws of it as an alternative to MySQL, which we will get to. A lot of the things between MySQL and Firebird are actually very similar. Now, going to market share and industry target, Firebird only accounts for 0.03% of the market share. As we see, we have Microsoft SQL servers, my being 18.15%, MySQL being 17.79%, and Microsoft Access being 10.81% based on reported database usage by several companies or organizations. And its industry targets are usually technical, business services, manufacturing, retail. However, because it's so small, this is a smaller type of sample than some of the other companies like MySQL. But it's a similar one just because it has a lot of the same uses as MySQL, because the Firebird database system is just like, it runs very, very similar to MySQL. And it's a type of database that's open, is an open source SQL, which means that any application with a code base, it's an application code base that is free to view, download, modify, distribute, and reuse, which, like I said, is one of the many draws of this software. And database model-wise, it is a type of database that is relational. So it uses the same type of thing as MySQL does, and it uses many of the things that we have been learning about as a way to record data in a database. And it organizes data into tables and holds information for each entity and represents predefined categories through rows and columns. Like I said, it's very similar to MySQL. Accessibility-wise, the latest version of Firebird 4.0 is available for download for Windows, Linux, and macOS. Data is stored on disk, but it can be integrated into a cloud via extensions. Installing a copy of the client library on the host server for use with several of Firebird's command line utilities and any server-based management components you might use. And while that seems strange, you can obviously just run it remotely. So once it's installed on a host server, you can just run it remotely afterwards. And it is integrated, but with third parties to cloud extensions too. So there is that advantage due to it being a very malleable database, and we'll get a little bit more into that later. Now, pricing itself, this database is free, so anybody can just download it into their computer. However, there is a membership available to help cover foundation costs, since it is a non-profit. And you may distribute the software separately with a product you own, but you cannot claim ownership or credit for it. So you have to give them credit if you're thinking of giving it with a product. And any license notices included with Firebird must remain intact. So you have to give any licenses for Firebird has to be in your own product if you're willing to distribute it with something else you made. Now, pricing is different for memberships. If you have the honorary membership, which is no subscription based, that is for people that or individuals that help the foundation through programming or correcting the database, and the people who do that a lot get that subscription waived. And honorary members are obviously active participants. Associate membership is a 1-year subscription for $50, and an associate member can participate in general meetings and be co-opted into committees for them to be heard of an opinion, but they cannot vote in elections. So you don't have that voting power. You just tell the people that are in charge technically what you would do, and they are free to listen or not. Voting membership is a 1-year subscription for $300, or 1-year subscription paid monthly in sums of $25. And principal or voting, or what's known as voting members, have normal voting rights as in general meetings. Their storage capacity, the maximum size of the database is 128 terabytes, or 2 to 32 powers per page size. Maximum number of tables is 32,768. No, 30,768. Maximum size of one table is 18 terabytes. Maximum number of rows per table is 2 to the 40th power. Maximum row size is 64 kilobytes. Maximum database page size is 32 kilobytes. Now, data access, this database, Firebird, uses SQL. So it's very similar to how MySQL works. And it performs excellently and scales impressively from an embedded single user model. And it has a lot of deployments with multiple 2 terabyte and gigabyte databases running with hundreds of simultaneous clients, which is just that it can take a lot of information in, and it can run several clients around with a host server. Now, it has a high compatibility with ANSI SQL, which is just a tenet of what SQL is, what it means to be an SQL database. So because it's an alternative to MySQL being the free version, being meant as a nonprofit, and it has flexible transaction management. So you have a lot of ways where you can correct or just change database connections and such. And this has a wide range of trigger types that allow flexible modifications of records, which is what is great about the software. And because it uses a very popular programming language like SQL, you can access these data correctly and quickly if you know even a little bit of how SQL works. Now, usability is, it has nearly zero maintenance, low footprint relational database system suited for all kinds of PC applications, since even an embedded version exists which doesn't require installation, so you can just copy the files into the embedded version. It supports SQL databases of 1 terabyte, and it can handle simultaneous connections when using it in the embedded software version. So if it's not cloud-based or just want to do a server, it's in the computer, you can just use it as a way to handle various connections from other databases. And obviously, you can copy a lot of data from SQL if you think of switching over into Firebird. Now, data visualization and reporting features. Now, Firebird Maestro provides a rich set of UI tools, like statistical tools, for anyone who uses Firebird, including database developers and data analysts and DBAs. So it gives you a lot of different graphs and features for it, so you can analyze what's going on in a database, in a data set. And HQ Bird Enterprises, which we see our logo, is the advanced distribution of Firebird for big databases with monitoring, optimization, and administrational tools. It's also includes the plugin for native parent-child replication. Some of the advantages and features of this are that hundreds of developers are willing to help you use it and improve it, find bugs. And it's not just, and even though its market share is small, because it works basically like MySQL, and that already has such a big market share, a lot of people just play around with Firebird or have it as a side type of software that they can use. And Firebird is more reliable when it comes to this technical. It's more reliable since there's no index or table corruption problems that are so often common with MySQL. And Firebird's database is just one file, so it's easy to move or back up databases by zipping or moving the file. MySQL database is distributed in many names, and it's hard to back up a MySQL file, while it's much easier to just take Firebird's files and back them up, since you can make it into a zip by zipping it and moving it to another file, since a lot it's easier to just make those documents. Now, Firebird has a very small installation package. It supports embedded mode. Therefore, the installation of the server is not required when working with local files. Some of the drawbacks, though, in general, my Microsoft SQL has a better performance on Windows than Firebird because MySQL has a longer history. With Windows, Microsoft SQL is made for Microsoft, so it's better at addressing some of those issues, and it also has a better integration with Microsoft Visual Studio. It requires Firebird requires the deletion of a previous Firebird program every time a new one is released. So that means that you have to back up any sort of files in the previous one, and which is easy to do, and put them into separate text files, and then just wait until a new one, and then delete the other one and install the new version, which up to now is Firebird 4.0, and put them back in. Now, MySQL also offers very similar features, so there's also not much of a incentive to switch, which hampers it from growing in market share and it being more popular or as popular as MySQL. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation.